Welcome back, and of course, it's still inside Nigeria this Wednesday morning, October 6th, 2021. As we speak, we are being joined by Salihu Mohammed Lukman, Director General, Progressive Governors Forum. Good morning, Mr. Salihu.
Good
Good
morning.
morning. Good morning.
Thank you.
Welcome to Inside Nigeria.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for creating time to join us this morning. Yeah, straight to business, Mr. Salihu. Just a few weeks ago, you wrote an article or a press statement calling for the amendment or review of the manifesto of the ruling All Progressive uh, Congress. So, can you bring us up to speed? Has that been done? And what has been missing? And what do you want to be accommodated in the manifesto of the ruling party?
Well, I think we should get it very clear. I mean, it's not a question of whether it has been done or not. There is an ongoing process already within the party, which is about making effort to rebuild the structures of the party. And in doing that, it's also about responding to a number of issues which have emerged over the years. The manifesto of the party was adopted in 2014. And between 2014 and now, there is a lot of progress. Some initiatives have been taken along the line, but new developments have emerged. And there is the need to really ensure that in responding to those new developments, the party manifesto capture it. So it's not a question whether it has been done. I think it's an issue that is an attempt to really focus the leadership to say it needs to be prioritized. I'm sure it's not something that is missing. Already the leadership may be considering it.
Okay. Thank you so much.
All right, Mr. Salihu, as the Director General of the Progressive Governors Forum, we want to know, before the formation of the PGF, we have the Nigerian Governors Forums, which comprise the 36 state governors. Now we have the Progressive Governors Forum, we have the PDP Governors Forum, and again, we even have Regional Governors Forum, Southern Governors Forum, Northern State Governors Forum, and again, down again, we have Southeast, we have Southwest Governors Forum, Northeast Governors Forum, Northwest Governors Forum, all these governors forums here and there. Do you think we actually need all these bodies, or the Nigerian Governors Forum, which is the umbrella body, is okay as a think tank that will drive policy matters?
Well, first, I think we need to understand politics more very well. You have 36 governors, 36 governors belonging to different parties, and even within the context of those different parties, they also have different interests, as the case may be. So the question of how they organize themselves to respond to their different interests is what is being reflected. If you look at Nigerian Governors Forum, date back to possibly around 2003 thereabout, or even before that, which was the beginning of the democracy. And before then, of course, there has been Northern Governors Forum. I am not sure about Southern Governors Forum. I read somewhere there was an attempt during Asuwaju to organize, which will be before 2007. So there has been all those initiatives. But I can speak more authoritatively in terms of the PGF, in terms of the Progressive Governance Forum. The initiative came about during the merger negotiation. Governors, that time there were 11. There were 11 governors among the parties belonging to the parties that were negotiating the merger. And while the negotiation was going on, they decided to work together. And if you remember, I think the first meeting of the 11 governors took place in Lagos before even the negotiation reached the stage of agreeing on name and other issues. and thereafter they met, they went to Maiduguri and met. So there were consultations going on. And it's all around a question of how they influenced the success of the merger negotiation at that point. But as the merger negotiation was succeeding, I think they saw the need to institutionalize what they started. And at that point, they took the decision to invite some of us to organize the secretariat. And they were very clear. The responsibility of the secretariat was basically to perform what they call think tank role, provide some intellectual advice, in terms of how they can do things. And it was very clear it's also around the need, which is part of the outcry out there in the public, that you can't differentiate between APC and other parties. But the governors, while organizing the Progressive Governance Forum, were clear they wanted to have a situation where the process of political evolution will also factor a situation where they are able to have some level of uniformity in terms of policy implementation in their different states. And that was how immediately they approved the setup of the secretariat. Some of the first thing we did was to set up programs. And around those programs, it's not just what came out in the public most of the time. It's when governors meet, then there is a lot of report, a lot of media hype about governors meeting. But there have been meetings of secretaries to government, meetings of different commissioners at different levels, depending on what are the issues that need to be responded to. For instance, just in the last 3 months, commissioners of information of all APC states met with information managers at federal level. Commissioners at different, there have been consultation going on with attorney generals of APC state based on the need to implement decisions around the question of autonomy of judiciary, autonomy of legislators in APC states. And the most important thing is for the whole question of the consultative process to carry along the whole issue of peer review. And our governors, have given all the enabling environment for that. So this is not something that you can say can be pigeonholed into one central body that accommodate governors from different parties, from different shades. For instance, even the whole question about challenges, what to do with grazing, what to do with livestock management and what have you, under one of our programs, which is the legislative program, there is a whole consultation going on in terms of, okay, what do we do to come up with a policy based on some minimum agreement among all our states across all the country, whether it is south or north. That consultation is going on, and it's our attorney generals of the APC state that are driving that consultations. And eventually, we may likely come up with what we call a prototype bill, which can be, if once approved, for instance, you can do on a multi-party basis. Because in doing that, we will have to look at provision of our manifesto, and other parties should also go and do that based on what their manifesto states.
Okay. Thank you so much. Hello, sir. Are you hearing us?
Yeah, hello. Yeah, I'm here.
I just want to find out from you, what is your view on rotational presidency within the confines of APC?
Well, I think this is an issue that is being overplugged, and I think somehow the public noise is creating a lot of distraction. The main point, which I have raised in one of my recent write-ups, is that the decision, eventually it has to be within the party. And we must encourage our leaders to come back to the structures of the party and engage themselves and consult and take, when decisions are taken, that decision should be respected. The major issue, and if you read my last write-up, is almost an appeal to all leaders, because a number of these issues are emerging because it will appear some level of confidence is breaking down. Leaders need to come back and have stronger confidence in themselves, engage themselves, but more importantly, also respect each other. Because in the absence of respecting each other, even when decisions are taken, there may be some foot dragging. But when there is respect, once decisions are taken, whether it is the kind of decision I want or not, but because I participate in that decision-making process, I should be able to respect it. I think if I want to be very clear in terms of the process of deciding eventually how the presidential candidate is going to emerge, there has to be level of discussion from the National Executive Council, and it's not just with respect to APC, even with respect to PDP, And some of the basic issues is basically that, okay, you come up with some kind of criteria of how you are going to elect your presidential candidate. And eventually it is the National Convention that is going to finalize the election process. So you are not going to have a resolution based on media debate, but you can have a resolution based on internal engagement. And sometimes when wrong steps are taken, it complicates matters. As you can see, there is a lot of hot air out there, which affects some of the internal mindset of leaders, and that needs to be corrected. The best way to correct it is to appeal to leaders rather than talking outside. I would prefer a situation where, for instance, tomorrow a National Executive Council meeting of APC is convened and debate is taken, and we begin to have indication. You may not be able to take decision immediately, but there will be indication in terms of what needs to be done before decisions are taken. And the most important things about democracy is the fact that we expect that the final decision will reflect the view of the majority. Now, how leaders are able to provide leadership, because the main issue, why are these things being debated? Because there are issues around the whole question of equity, the whole question of justice, the whole question of ensuring that every part of the country is carried along. Now, you can't carry every part of the country based on a language that seeks to antagonize, but if you do, there are issues, there are skills in negotiation which require that sometimes you have to take things even away from the table itself and do some consultation backdoor. And this is what leaders are expected to do. I have argued the strength of APC is that we already have a standard. In 2013, 2014, there was no this debate, and it's not a question that there was an issue around zoning or no zoning in APC. There was no question about that at all. But leaders were able to understand themselves and drive the process. And even when we got to the convention and everybody from every part of the country was contesting, there was no issue about that. The only thing APC was able to do was to provide level playing field and ensure transparency. Now, these are some of the internal discussions that need to take place. What do we do to ensure that transparency and level playing field?